Clay shivered and looked straight up. Suspended above the buildings in which people lived and worked was a luminous yellow glow, as if the city was a banked fire. Above that was the huge black sky that covered everything. The neon signs of closed stores cast out fishing lines of light onto the shadowed street. In restaurants he glimpsed a few late diners, most of them alone at their tables. In little grocery stores that stayed open all night, he saw people clutching plastic bags of fruit or cartons of milk, silently handing money to clerks. He kept close to the buildings, watching out for a policeman who might stop to ask him what he was doing out alone so late. A clock in the window of a jewelry store showed the hour, 11:50. People walked swiftly as though they were hastening home before something happened. Across the street, he glimpsed a group of tall boys in baseball caps and billowing nylon jackets. They weren't hurrying. They were shouting words, always the same 4 or 5, as if they knew no other language to hurl in insult at the sky, at cars, at windows behind which, at those sounds, sleepers would be yanked from sleep, just as Clay had been in the middle of the night in the hotel. That was when raging voices penetrated the walls with those same words that said, "This is what human beings do on toilets and together in their beds." It was a great howling that kept Clay and his mother awake until it mumbled away into silence. He went quickly to the corner and turned to the left. A car alarm shrieked somewhere ahead of him. His father had once remarked that car alarms told car thieves which were the best cars to steal. His mother had laughed. He pictured his mother laughing. Her head would go back, her eyes would squeeze tight. Her laugh had been merry and slightly hoarse. "Where you going?" demanded a voice. An old man with a blue cloth tied around his head was looking down at him, one of his hands gripping a small shopping cart full of sacks. "To get aspirin for my mother," Clay said. "Yeah, they're not going to sell you no aspirin. They're not going to sell you nothing. Get on home." Clay ran to the end of the block and turned another corner to find himself on a broad avenue. At that moment the lights on the marquee of a movie theater went out. A public telephone booth stood near the entrance. He felt the quarters in his pocket. Who could he call? He stood near the booth and watched as a man drew an iron gate in front of the lobby of the theater and locked it. The man suddenly coughed violently, took a large handkerchief from his inside jacket pocket, and covered his face with it as he walked away. Could he see through the handkerchief? Clay wondered. He looked at the telephone. His father's mother lived in Salem, Oregon. His father had told Clay about her. She hadn't spoken to Lawrence Garrity since he'd told her he was marrying Angela Vecchia. "Italian," she'd said. "You've ended our family line. Pure English until this. I'll have nothing more to say to you, and if you have children, I'll have even less to say to them." What was less than nothing? His mother's parents were dead. There were some cousins in Florida, but he didn't know whether they were his mother's or his father's. The Garritys were a very small family, just 3 people. He went on until he came to a house that stood between 2 tall buildings. It had a little stoop, and he went up the stairs and sat down on the marble threshold inside the doorway. He imagined calling his grandmother in Oregon and saying, "I'm half Italian. Would you tell the other half what to do?" He almost smiled. It was so late, yet the longest part of the night was still ahead. He wasn't too cold, but he knew he would be later on. He closed his eyes and leaned back against the portal. He didn't know how long he'd slept, but he knew what had waked him, thumps from inside the house. It had grown colder, and he shivered constantly as he bent his head toward the door. Someone was descending stairs. He got to his feet, took 2 steps at a time, and hit the sidewalk running. He didn't look back to see who it was who had come out. He walked on. The part of the city he had come to was much darker than the area where the hotel was. He saw what he thought were warehouses. There were empty buildings, old tenements with their windows boarded up, and a few narrow old houses, their stoops collapsed in heaps in front of them, their windows filled in with cement blocks.